You had the best time.
It still wasn't enough.
Relax.
The film has many overriding themes: sports, women relationships, and the modern day. What theme did you want to emphasize, and what scene in the film creates that emphasis the most?
For me, the themes at the core of all of this are grit and ambition and sort of how does somebody find purpose in their life. To me, this is my existentialist anthem. Like Alex finds her meaning through challenge and she has no external force. It's really all of that. The whole film is this kind of character study of what does it mean to be obsessed? What does it mean to go too far? What does it mean to do something for the sake of doing? And I haven't seen a film so much like that. And that's kind of what I wanted to create. I wanted to, because I don't know myself, nature, nurture, where does the grit come from? Where does the drive come from? I have no clue. And this was kind of my attempt to kind of explore that in other people.
One of the most under-discussed elements overall that jumped out to me is how sports are still a realm of the patriarchy and how women's sports are often underrepresented to the point that it throws crumbs to the participants and creates a toxic environment for them. In your experience and research for the film's story, what jumped out at you regarding sports?
Well, look, I was a collegiate rower, and I think that thanks to Title IX, if a program has $1 million football program, they have to spend $1 million on women's sports. And so by nature of that, you get these sports programs, but the schools don't prioritize them. They don't care about them. They don't advertise them. School for a long time, it was an issue of coming in and sort of seeming to care about what the student athletes are going for because we weren't making money for the school, right? And yeah, and I show that in some ways with this film too, because it's like no one knows really at the school that there's a rowing team. At my school, half the people were like, "Oh, we have a rowing team!" Like this was my life. This was like 20 hours a week. This was what I obsessed over for 4 years, and half the people at the school didn't even know it existed. Like no one was coming out to see our regattas. No one cared, and I don't know what that says so much about a thing. I wasn't trying to explore that so much, but I like this idea of you can be in this insular world and no one cares and is paying attention to you. And there's pros and cons to that. And yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know if there's a solution, but I think that exists, and you can see it with rowing, you see it with basketball, you see it with any kind of women's sport.
Lauren, as a sound designer, why do you think your film is different from a director who isn't a sound designer?
Well, I know from my entire first career, I can tell you from all the way to indies up to $200 million blockbusters that directors generally aren't thinking about film in terms of sound, in terms of the storytelling capability. But I know sound is half the cinematic experience. We use two senses when we watch a film. We see and we hear, and people are constantly sort of visual. And for a long time, my sort of imposter syndrome about becoming a director was with the fact that I care about visuals, but I've never been, nerdy over lenses and lighting and all of these things that everyone else around me seems to be. But then I realized I had this interesting kind of into film that most people don't have. And it's sort of marketing 101. I have this background in sound. I'm thinking about it in a storytelling tool. And from the crude, most logistical reasons, it's like if you're working on an indie film, you don't need to see 1,000 people, you need to hear 1,000 people, you need to see 7, thinking about those things. But also, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in this idea of putting the viewer in the subjective experience of the character. And you can put things on the screen and you can dip things away, and there's moments where the sort of action scenes in this film become almost surreal and like abstract in a way, like the spotlights and everyone else is falling away, and it doesn't feel like a sports film. But you have to match that with sound, and you can do things with sound and fuck with the audience on this reptilian level that they don't even know is happening, like with the frequencies that you're using. If you're putting things in certain speakers, like it's activating your kind of your reptilian instincts. Like all of that for me was a fun exploration.
It is said that each story you create and each role you perform changes your life incrementally. What would you both describe? How would you both describe the incremental change in your experience with The Novice?
Yeah, for me, I don't know if I've learned anything. Unfortunately, I think that I'm very all or nothing, and I had to go all in on this because this was kind of I no one's going to care. This is my child, and no one's going to care about my child as much as me. And so I really kind of put everything into this, and it almost broke me in some ways. Having these interviews, I've had this conversation and realizing like what I went through, especially with post production last year during this insane time. It was this. I had my own little Alex Dall journey 2.0. And I need to find balance, I think, and I don't think I can make another film like this without, I won't be able to make a third because I'll probably be dead.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2021.